I don't know if you've ever been part of a team where everybody was out of place. I remember playing basketball and football when I was in middle school, my seventh grade year. And prior to that, it was all baseball. In Oklahoma, we played baseball as kids, the Pee Wee League. But when I got to Texas, they don't have a Pee Wee League in the schools. You have to do something extracurricular. And so by the time I got to seventh grade, the options were football or basketball. And so I tried both. And I got on the basketball team, and I think it was our first tournament. I mean, I made the team, but it was kind of one of those public school things where if you show up and you can fog a mirror, you're going to make the team. But whether you actually get on the court to play, that's a whole different thing. See, I never was coordinated enough to dribble the ball with both hands. Okay, I could only dribble the ball with both hands. I couldn't dribble from this side and then move to this side. I couldn't dribble the ball between my legs. I couldn't run and dribble at the same time. I could only bounce the ball standing still, which doesn't make me a very good basketball player. I also hit about 30% of the shots that I threw up in the air. But I was big and I could take up space. And that was about it. I wasn't tall. I was just solid. And so in a particular tournament, the coach said to me, take this position, I guess they call it a post, right under the basket, just outside the key. And no matter what happens, you don't let this little guy who's the fast breakaway, because the other team had a guy that if he got a rebound or if somebody else passed him the ball, he had outrun everybody on the court. So even with a full court press, he would break free and just blister his way down to the other end of the court and make the shot. And all the coach said to me was, if he comes down to make that shot, you get in his way, you stop him any way you can, keep him from throwing up that shot. Well, he came running down for an easy layup, looked at me, thought he's going to be easy to fake out because he was under the mistaken identity that I knew what it meant to play basketball properly and that I was going to go for the ball or throw my hands up in his face or something. And instead, he got to the top of the key and jumped into his layup. And while he was midair, I threw an elbow into his rib cage that probably cracked a rib or two. Yes, I got a technical and I got thrown out of the game, and the team had to stand on the sideline and let him throw the technical shots and the free throws, and it was a big disaster. But here's what I know for a fact. That was the last game of organized basketball I ever tried to play in. Now, I've played with other guys since then, and they called me Stormin' Norman because I would just run over people from one end to the other. I played a really good defense. I could actually catch the ball if you throw it to me and pass it really fast to somebody else because I can't dribble it and I can't shoot it and I know better. But when they put me on the football team and made me a nose guard, that same set of skills came in very, very handy. In fact, our freshman year, we were undefeated. And it was myself and Tim Monroe on the front line beating the daylights out of everybody else on the front line of every other team that we faced that helped us to get there. Of course, we had a superstar quarterback and we had great wide receivers, and we had Michael Buckley and Alonzo Botello with some incredible speed around the outside. But the inside line, it wasn't going anywhere. Nobody came over the middle. The right place at the right time? Yes, that's exactly what it's about. See, the challenge we find as leaders is sometimes we end up with people who really should be playing nose guard, and we're trying to use them for a point guard. We've got them in a place because that's what their resume says they've always done, because that's what their degree says they're best at, because that's what their original job title was when they were hired on. But now we have this team that we've been building up all this time, and we have people out of place and out of pocket. And we can't figure out why there's friction. We can't figure out why this part of the team is doing really, really well and this part of the team is just a train wreck. And sometimes we think, well, if we'll just get rid of this player or get rid of this receptionist or get rid of this office manager or change out this sales manager, if we get that person off the team and bring someone new, fresh meat on the team, then we could change it all. And the reality is sometimes what you need is not new people, especially if your people are already loyal. If your people already have great teamwork, if your people already have great relationships, if your People are already committed to the project and the vision that you have them assigned to. Maybe what you need is not new people, but new job descriptions. Maybe you need to take that person into another role. Or maybe you need to look at the role they have and look at all the tasks that they're assigned to do and say, how many of these tasks are outside their comfort zone, outside of their competence zone, outside of their ability to do at a high level? I mean, sure, they could get them done eventually, but is there someone else who could do the same task faster? I met with a couple yesterday. We talked about their upcoming wedding. I'll be their MC. And I told them, we do some videography stuff as well. And she said, oh my gosh, we don't have a videographer yet. Would you be willing to do it? And I said, I will, but there's something you need to know. I hate editing. I'm glad to come and shoot it. I'll even give you all the raw footage with no copyrights. You can do whatever you want to with it. But I hate editing. She's like, oh, well, that's the main thing that we want. I'm not your guy. I've got all the good camera equipment. I know how to get a good shot. I even showed her some photos and videos from the last couple of weddings that we've done. She was excited about all of it until I said, I don't edit. Can I edit? Yes. Can I eventually get a good product? Pretty good. But it takes me about 10 times longer than anybody else that edits because it's not my strength. Eventually, I could get it done, and eventually I can get it good. But there are other people who can accidentally, in their sleep, do better work. Ding, ding, ding. Put someone else in that role. It's not that I can't, and it's not that I won't. It's just that it's not my greatest strength. At the same time, I know people who have the task of editing who've been asked to lead people or asked to manage people or to build a futuristic strategy for the organization. And they just take forever to do it, or they have a hard time managing other people, or have a hard time understanding what other people's goals and strengths are. Those are the things that come naturally to me. I can generally come pretty accurate to someone's ability, their intellect, their aptitude, their attitude, within about 15 or 20 minutes with them. I don't use a whole lot of assessment fancy tools. I just use this really strange thing called conversation. And I know what to listen for. And I know what to hear. And I know what to believe most of the time. Now, if you're intentionally trying to deceive me, then that's a whole different ballgame. But you can do that with a Myers-Briggs test. Or a DISC test. Or many of the other tests that are out there, if you know what it is that you're trying to accomplish before you start the test. It's just an average conversation. I'm going to pick up on most of those things pretty quickly. That's what I do well. That's what I do really well. And it helps when I speak from the platform that I can read the reactions of the crowds when I test various forms of communicating with them to see where we're going to go with this entire crowd as the event goes on. But what if the people on your team are really loyal? They're very intelligent. They have great levels of aptitude and a great attitude. But you've got their job descriptions scrambled all over the place. So the guy who's making French toast has things in his recipe list like hot sauce. And the one who's trying to make fried chicken has maple syrup. And you're going, there's something wrong with the final output. It just seems a little off every time. Is it possible that the job description that goes along with the assignment is messed up? You might think to yourself, well, how would that happen? How would you end up with a job description that doesn't match the job they're supposed to do? How is it that the assignment and the description of the role don't match? Let me give you an illustration of how that can happen. It happens a lot in small startup organizations, whether you're talking entrepreneurial, or you're talking a small church, or a small nonprofit, or even a small school. These phenomenon seem to take place, and that is that when the core leadership team, the first 3 or 4 or 5 people that start the team come on board, those are usually your highest level performers. They have the broadest spectrum of capabilities, they have the deepest spectrum of aptitude, and they all have a do or die attitude that's going to charge forward no matter what. Which means when something needs to be done, these are the go-getter kind of people who are just going to get it done. They're not going to ask what's the best way. They're not going to evaluate. Is there a shortcut? Is there a tool? Is there an app for that? They don't care. They're deeply invested in the success of this launch. And because of that, they will literally do whatever it takes to make it happen. So fast forward 6 months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, other people have started to come on board, and now you've got this one person doing a job that literally should be 4 or 5 people's jobs. Maybe in a small nonprofit organization, this person has always done fundraising, they've always done all of the public speaking, they've always done the larger bulk of the organization, i.e. hiring and firing people, bringing on new volunteers, training volunteers, etc., because they were the first one. Well, now they've handed off hiring and firing and training new people to someone else who came on and said, I'm willing to do that. Maybe even if that's not their core competency, because the founder probably should always be the fundraiser and the public face, at least to some degree. So that's not the work the founder will hand off. The work the founder will hand off is everything else that keeps them from fundraising and being the public face. Okay, maybe that's a startup software company or a startup plumbing company. The founder's probably still going to be the person doing the majority of the sales and the majority of the public face, i.e. the marketing, the Chamber of Commerce meetings, that type of stuff. The worker bees over here are taking care of the daily tasks. You see this starting to pan out? I've seen churches where the first person to go, I'll be the youth pastor, or the first one not smart enough to step back and go, I don't want to be the youth pastor, becomes the youth pastor. And early on, they're just like, I do whatever it takes to survive. I study whatever lesson I can find. I interact with the kids whatever way that I can adapt to. And we've made this work over time. Now, here's where the rub comes in. And this affects, again, small entrepreneurs and all the way up. In the military, people continue to get promoted because of time in service, time in rank, and testing. So there's a three-prong approach to how someone gets promoted. Of course, at certain higher level ranks, especially in the officer corps, once you get that high up, there's only a certain number of spots in that career field at that rank. And so you have to wait in line, even if you pass the test, even if you got the time and grade, even if you got the time in service, even if you got great records, you can't get that promotion in that career field until someone else retires out or passes on. Okay. In the world of small nonprofits or churches or schools or startup businesses, this one person comes in and takes over the role as a volunteer coordinator, as the youth pastor, as the head technician for your roofing company, as the head technician for your AC company. And when that person comes on board, they're like the savior to you because they fill a gap that you had as the team leader. And they're now doing work that you just didn't have time to do, but you knew it had to be done. And you knew, I'm either going to train these new technicians on our process and our methodology, or I'm going to go sell. But I can't do both. And if I'm training them, then I'm not making any sales, then all of us are broken. If I'm selling, then they're not getting trained, and they're going to do disastrous work, which means our sales are going to fall through because we're not going to get any more. And so it's a double-edged sword that affects you really fast. So the first person to come in and say, I got this. I will be the youth pastor. I will train your volunteers. I will show up and clean the office, whatever it is, becomes your go-to person. Not because they're the best. Not because they're even adequately trained at or perfectly skilled at that task, but because they were the first. They were the first one to step in and go, I'll do this. Now fast forward a year or two from that, and your organization has started to grow. And you've got 5 or 6 people now who are around to help with your technician or to help with your organizational, your events, with volunteer coordination, with making sure that all your products and services are in line and they're being delivered properly. And this team of 5 or 6, there happens to be one superstar who came on just recently who is like the task whisperer. If you say, wow, we really need some new invoices. We've been using these for 5 years now. And by the time you come back from lunch, there's an entirely new invoicing system. And they've developed the entire process. And it's not just the form that you can fill out, but the form can be printed from your iPad and you can fill it out for the customer while you're standing there on your iPad. And when you hit save, it's in the computer at the office and it's on the printer at the office and it's in the printer in your truck and you're ready to go. And that's incredible. And nobody in the last 5 years knew how to do that, save this one new person who just came on board. Okay, so there's a job title for a person like that. That's administrator or office manager. Oh, hang on. We already have an office manager. We have an office manager because they were the first person that came on board and they've been here for 5 years, and it doesn't seem right to fire them even though someone else knows how to do the job they should be doing better. Now we have a real quandary, don't we? We have a 5-year-long loyal employee and friend doing a job that they've done, according to us, up to standards all this time. But only because we haven't had an assessment of what could be better. And now we have this new team member that currently is assigned as a technician or a volunteer coordinator or a product distributor, who would be an incredible office manager, but that spot's not open. You follow me so far? See, as leaders, our job isn't just to have loyalty to those who have loyalty to us, while that is essential. It's not just to have a team that tend to get things done eventually. Our job is to assign people in roles where they're aligned with their gifts, their skills, their acquired skills, their talents, their natural ability, the things that they like to do, and the work that needs to be done. And there are a lot of people who like to sing who can't. There are a lot of people who like to do art, but no one will buy it. There are a lot of people who like to write books and poetry, and no one buys them. And so the question you have to ask yourself is the person that I have assigned to that task because I like them, because they like that role, or because they're a good fit for that role? Because they're the best option I have to get that job done now and to get it done right. And what if one of the other people that's on my team had a better aligned skill set to what the task needs to be done? So you might get really creative and say, okay, so I have an office manager who does office management stuff. They handle the time cards, they handle the payroll, they deal with the bookkeeping, they answer the phone calls, they make sure that everybody's on the right schedule and in the right place, and that dispatch has happened, etc., etc. But I didn't know there was a potential to have an invoicing system like this, and oh my gosh, that makes my life easier, because right there on the invoice in the system, it tells me who the salesperson was and who the technician was and when the deal was done, and by the time they go through the whole invoicing system, at the bottom line, it even tells me what product was sold and what the profit margin was. My gosh, that makes my life so much easier. We really need that system. But if I implement that system, suddenly my office manager feels like they've kind of lost their role, or they're obsolete. But they're loyal, and I'm loyal to them, and I don't want that to happen. So what's the fix? Sometimes what you need to do is leave your job titles perhaps where they are. Maybe the job titles need a little tweaking, and the dotted lines of who reports to whom, maybe like a thumb puzzle, needs to be rearranged just a little bit. But the job descriptions that are under those job titles, you know as well as I do, most of those are ambiguous. Those job descriptions are often a catch-all to say, well, I fired you because you didn't do this thing, or I'm hiring you because you're capable of this thing. You know as well as I do how often job descriptions are written to match the person you want to hire, not the need that you have in your organization. If that's a reality, just be honest with yourself about it, because it's a powerful reality to understand. If you hired a person because you like that person, you like their skills, you like what they bring to the team in an energy way, in an attitude way, in a leadership way, but you're looking at them going, I don't exactly have a job that matches your resume. Fine, get over it. I love the way John Maxwell says it. We tend to hire people for what they do. Job description matches resume, matches application, matches education. Woohoo! They do all the right stuff. But then we fire them for who they are, for their character, for their integrity, for their loyalty, for their value, for their lack of honor, for their lack of respect, for their inability to work along with the team. You know what? Those things are not on your resume. Those things are not in your job description. And that's the rub. As a leader, you've got to understand, when I hire good people, I hire good people because they're good people with a great attitude and aptitude. We'll train you for the skills that we need done. And if along the way we realize that your skill set is not a match for the job that we first aligned you in, we will find a position for the right person to get the work done that must be done. Now, if we finally get to a place where we realize the job you were hired for is no longer needed, or the job that we hired you for is not a good fit for you, our first objective is to keep you and find another role. If we can't accomplish that, then we may need to put somebody else in your spot who we will keep and find the right role. You can save a whole lot of heartache with that by doing assessments up front. If you were brave enough as a leader of an organization to take all of the things that need to be done, forget the original assembly line mindset where person A does these 5 tasks and person B does these 5 tasks and person C does these 5 tasks. Just take all 15 tasks and throw them into a hopper like a lottery, and then pull them out based on the people who are capable of accomplishing them best, and say, okay, who's my very best person at invoicing systems? Great, you get the invoicing system task. Who's my very best person at sales management? Not sales, sales management. Those are different. One is about managing customers and expectations. The other is about managing people. Those are totally different tasks. Ask any large sales organization. In fact, I dare you, just go right down there in the comments and say, hey, Brian Flanagan, how many sales managers are hired from being the best salesperson but fail as sales managers? He can probably give you a stat on that. He's been doing it for decades, training good sales teams. Brian Flanagan, he's in my friends list. You'll find him. Just pick the comment down there. He'll answer you. The reality is those tasks that need to be done should be doled out to the person on your team who's the best fit for the task, not just what fits in the job description. And if you're brave enough to do that kind of a ping pong ball lottery and say, all right, here's the task that's got to be done, I'm going to assign this to you. And this is another task that in the past has never fit in the same job description, but I'm also going to assign that to you because those 2 tasks are both like your skill set, your personality, your ability. And then that will also allow you to get past that barrier that says, well, this is my friend and they've been around for so long and they have this job. And so I don't want to take tasks away from them that make them feel obsolete. You know, we're just going to put all the tasks in a hat and start over again. And you're going to find that you have a lot more success in your team because you'll have a lot more completion of tasks in a timely manner with a higher level of efficiency. And you'll see that happen very quickly. Caroline Leaf says it like this. You know it's a gift when you do it easily and can't understand why nobody else can do it as easily. Or when you do it and everybody else goes, how did you do that? An example might be rolling your tongue. Not everybody can roll their tongue. But those who roll their tongue, it just comes naturally. They're like, it's no big deal to roll your tongue. And people who can do it are like, how do you do that? There are tasks that you do. There are natural bents in your personality as a leader, as a performer, that just comes so easy to you. You're like, I thought everybody could do that. I didn't realize it was that big a deal. That's a gift. And other people standing around looking at you going, how did you do that? That's a gift. If you have people in your team who are gifted and talented in certain areas, task completion areas like that, take that task out of the hat and give it to them. Forget what the job description says. Forget what the job title is that goes with that task. Give that assignment to the person who's in alignment with that task, and the task will get done better and faster and sooner every time. That's risky business in the ways of the business world because the business world has its little boxes. And the resume only goes so far. And the application only goes so far. And the job aptitude test, it only goes so far. Mainly because those tasks have been assigned based on what someone else did in the past. And they don't always blend together well for the team you have today. So that's my challenge for you. What part of the team would you best fit in if you erased your job description? If you're the leader and you erased all job descriptions and all job titles and allowed people to naturally do what comes best to them, what would your team look like then? And would you still be the leader? Think on those things this week. And ask yourself that question. If it wasn't for the title and the job description, where would my skill sets put me now? I'm J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.